Welcome back. In the previous video, we talked about taking care of goats and what it looks like to take care of goats. If you missed that video, follow the link above this one at the top of the page. You won't regret it.
But today we're going to tackle the question, what do I do if my goats get sick? Illness is probably one of the biggest fears for new goat owners.
But with the right knowledge and the right support, you can diagnose and treat your goats with confidence.
Am I the only one? I just feel like my hands are continually just loaded, full of something. And it's just, I guess, a part of life. It's part of being too busy. And I find that I have to be so diligent in shutting gates, shutting the barn door, and making sure it's latched. And I'm continually saying, kids, latch the gate, latch the barn door, do not forget. Well, one morning I came out and my heart just immediately dropped. I knew immediately what had happened. The barn door had been left open and the goats had gotten in, and they'd gotten into the grain, and one of them had overindulged and she wasn't doing well, because a goat that has a change in diet, it can go very bad very quickly. You have to change things over very slowly because their digestive system just can't handle it, and they can get very sick very quickly. So I knew something immediately was wrong with her, and I immediately went into action and was able to bring her back to health because of knowing what to do. And those things happen so quickly that, it could have been prevented in just a fraction of a second. Happens so quickly, and then it can have devastating results. But knowing what to do is a lifesaver, truly.
If you are going to raise and breed goats, eventually you will have to experience kidding. Now, a goat's birth will normally go extremely uneventful. You will come out one morning and hopefully baby goats are there to welcome you. Unfortunately, though, sometimes problems do arise. I have had several kidding experiences that did not go as planned. The first one was about 2 to 3 years after I had started raising goats. Fortunately, I had done a lot of research and I knew what the proper kidding position should be. I knew that what I was seeing was not correct. The baby goat was coming out and all I could see was a tail, and I knew enough to know that that was not the proper kidding position. I also knew how to disinfect my arm so that I could go in and turn the kid around so that it could come out and save both the kid and the doe. In the Raising Goats for Beginners e-course, we show you what proper kidding positions look like, as well as tell you exactly what you need to have a successful kidding experience.
We deal with a lot of anemia on our farm, and it's hard on the goats, and it comes on fast, especially when we have rainy summers, that the worm population just explodes and we get a whole lot of barber pole worms. We also have one particular doe who always gives triplets, and she has a hard time keeping up with their demand. And we've pulled some sometimes, but she just, every summer it takes a lot out of her. She loves her Nutri-Drench, so she gets that a lot, but she ends up with pale eyelids and bottle jaw. But since we know what to look for, we keep an eye on her. We keep a close eye on her, and she always bounces back. We also wean the kids early for her every year, so it's very important to know your goats and know what they need and their situations.
We love to talk about how much we love goats. We love to talk about how things are just magical and wonderful with them, and that nothing ever goes wrong. But the reality is that sometimes things do go wrong. And usually kidding goes well. The goats are built to have kids, and usually there's no problems. But sometimes there is. I had a year that didn't end like it was supposed to. I had a doe that always had great kidding. She never had any problems. And it was wonderful. I mean, it's so wonderful to have a goat like that. But there was a year that it didn't end like it was supposed to. She had her first kid with no problems, but the second kid was very in the wrong position. The head was wrenched around, and it was just stuck. My husband tried to pull, I tried to pull, but we weren't gonna pull to, mutilate her or anything. So we called the vet and said, we can't do it, can you come? And I regret that so much because he pulled and pulled and pulled. And I just trusted him. I was in a state of probably shock and fear and overwhelm. And it ruined her, and she died the next day. And I regret that because of the fact that I didn't have an emergency plan in place. Now, it's not that we want to say, that bad things will always happen. No, but we want to be prepared. We want to know what to do before the problem actually happens. And that is the key to success when dealing with problems with your goats. Now, if I had said, beforehand, if this happens and we can't pull a goat, we can't pull a kid out of a goat ourselves, we're going to call the vet and we're going to say we can't do it and we want a C-section. And that is my future plan. And I will have talked to the vet beforehand and will say, hey, can you do this? Do you want to do this? This is our plan. Is that okay with you? And so that it's known, he knows what to expect, we know what to expect, and that is our future plan. And of course, you never, I want to go back and do it all over again, and I feel like that would have been the answer to what happened. But we can't go back into the past to find out. But I guess with you and your goats, you need to have a plan in place because sometimes bad things do happen and we need to know how to react and react very quickly. Goats are very hardy animals, and the fact that when they're sick, that means they're really sick because they've been hardy enough to cover up the symptoms or just to be strong and push through until they're very, very sick. And that is why you have to act quickly with goats.
The first time we dealt with an illness with our goats was really scary. We had been trimming weeds down in our lower pasture, putting up a new fence for the goats. And my mom and my brother were in town helping us. And they knew nothing about goats, so they thought they'd give the goats a treat, and they threw some branches over the fence. Unfortunately, those branches were mountain laurel, which is really toxic to goats. And we woke up the next morning to all of our goats vomiting everywhere. They were screaming in pain. The moms would not let their kids nurse, and the babies were vomiting, and they were dehydrated, they were sick, and honestly, we didn't know if they would make it or not. So we researched what to do for rhododendron and mountain laurel poisoning. So we got milk of magnesia, we got activated charcoal, we got electrolytes. We basically just hoped and prayed that anything we put in them would calm their stomachs enough to help stop the vomiting and rehydrate them until the poisons were out of their systems. And it was a really hard few days. But they all survived. And luckily, once they eat the mountain laurel once, they usually will not touch it again. So they steer clear, and now everybody's healthy. But during that time, we were scared that we would lose our entire herd just because my family didn't know that the goats should not eat mountain laurel.
Unfortunately, when raising goats, there is going to be times of illness. There are going to be times when you need to care for your goat, and there are some things that you are going to need to know in order to do that. I have had several scary experiences myself over the years with the health of my goats. Not long after I started raising goats, this girl here, who happens to be one of my biggest milk producers, came down with hypocalcemia, which is a scary word for milk fever. At the time, I did not realize that the amount of milk that she was producing was not being met with the proper nutrition that she needed. I came out one morning and she was extremely sick. She would not eat. She would not drink. She was getting very dehydrated. I frantically started calling all of my friends that raised goats. I finally talked to one of them and described her symptoms, and she told me what was going on and walked me through exactly what I needed to do to care for her. It was very scary, but having that kind of support was wonderful. It gave me so much comfort and peace of mind to know exactly what I needed to do. And it also made me realize that I needed to research. I needed to learn as much as I could so that I could care for my goats in times of illness.
This last kidding year, it was a wonderful year. All of the babies were born in my lap. I was there for every one of them. And I had the other two crazy goat ladies on the other end of Messenger. You know, we live states and states away. We are on the opposite ends of the United States from each other. And yet, when we were, each one of us, when we were going through our kidding process with our goats, we had each other right there on our phones, and we're able to just instantly message each other and say, hey, this is going on, is this right, or this is what's happening, and yay, look at these babies. And it was such a relief because kidding is stressful. It can be stressful, and having that access to someone to say, whoa, is this right? Oh my goodness, this is happening. What do I do? Oh, the legs are back. Okay, I'm gonna go in and pull. And just being able to, say, have that second opinion, and just that support that you're not alone, that you have somebody there with you is priceless. It is such a relief. It's just that breath of fresh air that you're not alone, and that is something you, as goat owners, I think we need, because there's not many vets that know about goats. There's not many people that know about goats, and sometimes you can just feel alone and isolated when you're in the barn alone helping your goats through something, and that is what a community can do. That is what Raising Goats for Beginners offers to anyone that is interested in raising healthy goats.
And that is what we are here for. In the Raising Goats for Beginners e-course, we are here to not only teach you everything that you need to know to care for your goats, but we are also here to help you and to support you in times of illness. We are here when things get rough and when you are scared and worried that your goat is not going to make it. We do not want you to have to go through some of the same situations that we have gone through. And in the Raising Goats for Beginners e-course, we are going to give you the information that you need to avoid that.
All of that may seem very scary. You are probably filled with a lot of questions.
Like, where do I start? How do I even know what's wrong with my goats? And how do I know how to treat them?
Tomorrow, we will show you the Raising Goats for Beginners course. You will get an inside look at everything that the course has to offer, and you will be able to see how the course can help you to raise healthy goats, as well as treat them in times of sickness.
But for now, leave a comment below telling us what your biggest fear or concern is when you think about raising goats and your goats' health.